Good afternoon. Today we are going to start the next compound from group 16. So we have started group 16 in last class. We discussed oxygen and ozone, sulfur dioxide, their preparation, properties, uses, structure we discussed in last class. Today we are starting from the next compound, that is sulfuric acid H2SO4. So we all know that very well, which is commonly used in our laboratories. So sulfuric acid, they can be manufactured by lead chamber process, cascade process or contact process. So what is the other name for contact process? Cascade process. The other process which we manufacture sulfuric acid is lead chamber process. So here we are going to discuss contact process only. So it involves the following steps. A very important question, listen. Initially what we'll do, sulfur dioxide is produced by burning sulfur or iron pyrite in oxygen or air. So what we have to do, you go to the sulfur dioxide and see there how we are preparing this sulfur dioxide. So sulfur dioxide we are preparing. Okay, so that sulfur dioxide formed is oxidized into sulfur trioxide by air in the presence of catalyst like vanadium pentoxide or platinized asbestos. After that, the sulfur trioxide is absorbed in the concentrated sulfuric acid and it produces oleum. So what will happen? So the sulfur trioxide is concentrated, is absorbed, that will be absorbed in concentrated sulfuric acid, which is, it produces oleum H2S2O7, and that oleum will be converted into sulfuric acid by diluting it with water. So to maximize the yield in the plants, what they will do, it is operated at 2 bar pressure and 720 Kelvin. So the sulfuric acid obtained will be 96% pure from this contact process. Their physical properties: pure sulfuric acid is colorless, viscous liquid, and high boiling point and viscosity of sulfuric acid is due to the association of molecules together through hydrogen bonding. So usually the dilute one will be highly flowy and not so thick and all. If you see the concentrated sulfuric acid, it will be like an oil consistency, so it will be so viscous. So that is because of the hydrogen bonding. So all the molecules are associated or bonded together, and this will get freezed at 283.4 Kelvin and boils at 590 Kelvin. It is highly soluble in water and strong affinity towards water also, and hence it can be used as a dehydrating agent also. So we all know very well why this is used as a dehydrating agent, because it is highly soluble and also it has a strong affinity, means easily it can go and form a bond with water. So it is highly dehydrated agent. When dissolved in water, it forms mono, that is H2SO4 with one water molecule, and dihydrate means two water molecules, and the reaction will be exothermic. So the dehydrating property they have illustrated here in the organic compounds like sugar, oxalic acid and formic acid. So when you use sulfuric acid with sucrose, it will be acting as a dehydrating agent, the sulfuric acid, so that it gives 12 carbon atoms will be coming out separate. The remaining hydrogen and oxygen will come along with sulfuric acid because it has high affinity with water, so that it will dehydrate the water molecule present in the other compounds. And formic acid also, carbon monoxide will come out along with that one water molecule attached to sulfuric acid. Oxalic acid also is here. It will give carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and sulfuric acid monohydrate will be produced as a byproduct. That is very important. Next is chemical property. Sulfuric acid is highly reactive. It can act as a strong and an oxidizing agent. So decomposition reaction is given. Sulfuric acid is stable. However, it decomposes at high temperature to sulfur trioxide. So it will decompose to H2SO4, means H2O will come out, remaining SO3 will be left out. And its acidic nature, it is a strong dibasic acid, hence it forms two types of salts, namely sulfates and bisulfates. So sulfuric acid reacts with NaOH to give sodium bisulfate. H represents bi, H denotes bi, and sulfuric acid again reacts with two molecules of water to give sodium sulfate. Same sulfuric acid reacts with ammonia to give ammonium sulfate. Its oxidizing property: sulfuric acid is an oxidizing agent as it produces nascent oxygen So can you see here nascent oxygen means this is in a bracket, if it is given means it is a nascent oxygen. So it decomposes to give water, sulfuric acid, sulfur dioxide and nascent oxygen, that is its oxidizing property. And sulfuric acid oxidizes other elements such as carbon, sulfur and phosphorus. It also oxidizes bromide and iodide to bromine and iodine respectively. So carbon reacts with sulfuric acid to form carbon dioxide. Sulfur reacts with sulfuric acid to form sulfur dioxide. Phosphorus to give phosphoric acid. Hydrogen sulfide to give sulfur dioxide, and it reacts with hydrogen iodide and hydrogen bromide to give iodine and bromine molecules. And it reacts with metals also. Sulfuric acid reacts with metals and gives different products depending on the reactant and reacting condition mainly. So dilute sulfuric acid reacts with metals like tin, aluminium, zinc to give corresponding sulfate. So zinc reacts with sulfuric acid to give zinc sulfate and hydrogen gas is liberated, and aluminium reacts to give aluminium sulfate and hydrogen. And here hot concentrated sulfuric acid reacts with copper and it leads to give the respective sulfate. So copper means copper sulfate, lead means it will give lead sulfate. Sulfuric acid does not react with noble metals like gold, platinum and silver. So that is an exception. So remember, so sulfuric acid does not react with noble metals like gold, silver and platinum. And reaction with salt, so any salt to give metal sulfate and bisulfates. So potassium chloride means it gives potassium bisulfate. Potassium nitrate means again potassium potassium bisulfate. Sodium carbonate means sodium sulfate. Sodium bromide means sodium bisulfate. So depending upon the number of sulfuric acid we use, we will get bisulfates or sulfates. Reaction with organic compounds. It reacts with organic compounds like benzene to give sulfonic acid. So benzene sulfonic acid. So H2SO4 lerundu H2O mattum remove aichna, remaining we will get HC6H6SO3. And what are the uses of this sulfuric acid? Sulfuric acid is used in the manufacture of fertilizers, ammonium sulfate and superphosphate and other chemicals such as hydrochloric acid and nitric acid. It is used as a drying agent and also used in the preparation of pigments and explosives. And next is test for sulfate and sulfuric acid. So we need, for example, in your 11th standard you would have studied, you would have did this practicals, that is inorganic analysis, yes or no? So there you would have got zinc sulfate salt. So you have to do a test for the identification of the presence of this sulfate. So how will you identify the presence of sulfate? Sulfate irukku nam eppadi vandu identify pandrathu? So we have to do this test since we are discussing the sulfuric acid. So we need to know, in sulfuric acid we are having sulfate ion. So how does that sulfate ion, for example from zinc sulfate la irukra sulfate ion eppadi nama identify panna porom? So there, do you remember the inference? Curdy white precipitate. You will get curdy white precipitate means presence of sulfate and solluvom. So that test we are going to see here. Dilute solution of sulfuric acid and aqueous solution of sulfate gives white precipitate with barium chloride solution. So barium chloride oda H2SO for sulfuric acid add pannom appadina barium sulfate will be precipitated as white color precipitate, so that we can easily identify the presence of sulfate. The other one is lead acetate test. There also you will get white precipitate. So how that is formed? That will go and form a bond with the metal atom from the main substance whatever we are taking. So lead sulfate irukku appadina lead la irukra sulfate, lead acetate, for example lead acetate எடுத்துக்கிறோம் அப்படின்னா H2SO4 அதோட ஆட் பண்ணும்போது that lead and sulfate ion from sulfuric acid will form lead acetate again, which is a white precipitate. So that is how we will identify the presence of the sulfate ions. So with this your sulfuric acid gets over. So when you see the sulfuric acid, these uses test for sulfate or sulfuric acid, this test can be asked, and contact process is very very important. So all that you have to keep in mind, and few exceptions are there in between. Now today we are going to see the other structure of oxo acid of sulfur. So sulfur forms many oxo acids. The most important one is sulfuric acid. Some acid like sulfurous and dithionic acid are known in the form of their salt only, since the free acids are unstable and they cannot be isolated. So few of them, they are known only in their salt forms. Now they will not be stable in their own form, so the salt தான் இருக்கு. So various oxo acids of sulfur with their structure they have given. First is sulfurous acid. So sulfurous and sulfuric, what is the difference? H2SO3 is sulfurous. Sulfuric means one oxygen you have to add to that, sulfuric. Okay, so that will become sulfuric. So here also you can see double bond O and OH. Sulfur is a oxo acids of sulfur means what? You will have oxygen, you will have sulfur, and then you will have an H plus ion. So acid na H plus and proton is an acid. So you will have an oxygen and hydrogen and sulfur molecule for sure. So H2SO3 la H irukku, oxygen is there, sulfur is the hero here. So sulfur will be in the center. Same way with what we discussed in the last class for phosphorus. What is compulsory there? Double bond O and OH. So same way you will have S in the middle, along with that double bond O and OH here. So now one sulfur is over, two oxygen is over, okay, and then one hydrogen is over. Remaining left out with OH will come here. Is it clear? Next is sulfuric acid, H2SO4. Put S double bond O and OH. The remaining you are having so one sulfur, two oxygen is over, so two oxygen is there, and one hydrogen is there. So one hydrogen you cannot put simply, so one hydrogen and oxygen will join here as OH. Remaining left out with only one oxygen, so that will come out as double bond O. So sulfur will always come with sulfur with oxygen, or phosphorus with oxygen will always, single oxygen I am talking about, will always come with a double bond only, so to satisfy the valency of oxygen also. And oxygen, if it is going to pair up with the other elements, it will pair only with the hydrogen in case of this HSO. Okay, so HSO la H வந்து டைரக்டா S கூட bond pair பண்ணாது, it will always bond with hydrogen only here. Okay, next is Thiosulfuric acid, H2S2O3. So definitely you will put one S, double bond O, OH you will put. Remaining ரெண்டு sulfur bond ஆகும்போது S double bond S. Okay, so sulfur ஓட valency 6. so always நம்ம sulfur சுத்தி 6 bond இருக்கான்னு check பண்ணிட்டே இருக்கணும். And remaining left out with O and H, you will get that O and H here. Next is Dithynis acid. So Thiosulfuric acid ko Dithynis acid ko, what is the difference? One oxygen is different. So இப்படி pair படிச்சீங்கன்னா you will remember in mind, remember easily. So Dithynis acid ரொம்ப simple. ரெண்டு சல்ஃபர்னா ரெண்டு சல்ஃபர் இருக்கும் bond, double bond OH double bond OH போட்டுட்டு கவுண்ட் பண்ணிங்கனாலே ஃபுல்லாமே satisfy ஆகிடும் இங்கே number of atoms. Next is Disulfurous acid or Pyrosulfuric acid. So Disulfurous acid or Pyrosulfuric acid, now you have to add one more oxygen in Dithynis acid. So H2S2O5. So pyron வரும்போது so ஒரு oxygen இந்த இடத்துல முன்னாடி atomல இருந்து இன்னொன்று எக்ஸ்ட்ரா வரும். So Disulfurous acidல S double bond, so sorry, not S double, S and S you will put, and each S will have double bond O and OH, double bond O and OH. ஒரே ஒரு ஆக்சிஜன் தான் நம்ம எக்ஸ்ட்ரா இதிலிருந்து ஆட் பண்ணியிருக்கோம். ஸோ தட் ஆக்சிஜன் இன் எனி ஆஃப் த சல்ஃபர்ஸ், இதில் தான் போடணும்ல, எந்த சல்ஃபரில் வேணாலும் யூ கேன் புட் தட். ஓகே, next is Pyrosulfuric acid or Disulfuric acid. Pyrosulfuric means you will have to add one oxygen, 2 oxygen extra from pyrosulfurous acid. So sulfurous ko sulfuric ko 2 oxygen வந்து differ ஆகும். So S2 means again you will put S2 here. So here only you have to be very careful. ரெண்டு சல்ஃபர் போட்டுக்கணும் நீங்கள். இங்கே டபுள் பாண்ட் O OH, டபுள் பாண்ட் O OH முடிஞ்சிருச்சு. Still you are left out with ரெண்டு சல்ஃபர் முடிஞ்சிருச்சு, ரெண்டு ஆக்சிஜன் ரெண்டு சல்ஃபர், ரெண்டு ஹைட்ரஜன் முடிஞ்சிருச்சு, 4 ஆக்சிஜன் முடிஞ்சிருச்சு. யூ ஆர் லெஃப்ட் அவுட் வித் 3 ஆக்சிஜன்ஸ். ஆனால் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா நமக்கு ரெண்டு சல்ஃபர் தான் இருக்குது. ஸோ ரெண்டு சல்ஃபர்லேயும் டபுள் பாண்ட் ஓ போட்டுரும். ரிமைனிங் எங்கே போடுறது, வி டோன்ட் நோ. ஸோ அப்போ தான் யூ ஹாவ் டு பாண்ட் இன் பிட்வீன் திஸ் சல்ஃபர். ஸோ இந்த ரெண்டு சல்ஃபர் ஆட்டம்க்கு நடுவில் யூ ஹாவ் டு பாண்ட் திஸ். ஓகே, ஸோ வென் யூ ரைட் அண்ட் சி ஒன் ஆர் ட்வைஸ், ஸோ நீங்கள் ஸ்ட்ரக்சர் மட்டும் தான், சாரி மாலிகுலர் ஃபார்முலா மட்டும் தான் ஞாபகம் வச்சுருக்கீங்கன்னா தட் இஸ் வெல் அண்ட் குட், தட் இஸ் மோர் தென் எனஃப். ஸோ இதை மட்டும் ஞாபகம் வச்சுட்டு ஒரு 2-3 ஸ்ட்ரக்சர் நீங்கள் பென்சிலில் எக்ஸாம் பேப்பரில் வரைஞ்சி பார்த்தீங்கன்னா you will get the structure. Next is Peroxymonosulfuric acid or Carus acid, H2SO5. So S na ஒரு S தான் இருக்குது, put one S and double bond OH. So again ஒரு டபுள் பாண்ட் ஓ இங்கே போட்டுடலாம். இன்னொரு 2 ஆக்சிஜன் ஒரு ஹைட்ரஜன் இருக்குது. ஸோ அதை என்ன பண்ணுவோம், ஒரு ஆக்சிஜனை ஒரு ஹைட்ரஜனோட பாண்ட் பண்ணிட்டோம்னா இன்னொரு ஆக்சிஜன் எங்கே போகிறது. ஸோ எல்லா சைடுமே கவர் ஆயிடுச்சு. ஸோ இந்த சைடில் இருக்கிற சல்ஃபர் அண்ட் ஆக்சிஜனை யூ ஜஸ்ட் பாண்ட் தட், ஸோ தட் யூ வில் கெட் டபுள் பாண்ட் ஃபார் ஆக்சிஜன் ஆல்சோ. நெக்ஸ்ட் இஸ் Peroxo Disulfuric Acid. ஸோ Peroxo Disulfuric Acidனாலே நம்மளுக்கு 2 ஆக்சிஜன் இன் பிட்வீன் த ஸ்ட்ரக்சர் வரும், இன் பிட்வீன் த 2 சல்ஃபர் ஆட்டம்ஸ் வரணும்னு ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கோங்க. திஸ் ஆசிட் இஸ் ஆல்சோ கால்ட் அஸ் மார்ஷல்ஸ் ஆசிட். ஸோ இந்த மார்ஷல் ஆசிடோட ஸ்ட்ரக்சர் தான் லாஸ்ட் இயருக்கு முந்தின இயர் பப்ளிக் எக்ஸாமில் திஸ் வாஸ் ஆஸ்க்டு. ஸோ இட் இஸ் வெரி இம்பார்ட்டன்ட். ஸ்ட்ரக்சர் தானே பார்த்துக்கலாம் விட்டுறலான்னு சொல்லாதீங்க, 2 மார்க்கில் கேட்குறாங்க. ஸ்ட்ரக்சர் வந்து they are asking you to draw, they are not asking you to write the molecular formula from the structure, they are asking you to draw the structure from the molecular formula. So they are giving only one. இந்த மாதிரி பெரிய பெரிய ஸ்ட்ரக்சராக இருந்தால் they are giving only one, or sometimes they are giving 2 for 1 mark also, that is 2 questions for each 1 mark அப்படின்ற மாதிரி கொடுக்குறாங்க. அப்படின்னா 3 மார்க்ஸில் கூட 1.5 marks 1.5 marksன்னு கேட்குறாங்க. இல்லை 5 மார்க்லேயும் வந்து சப்டிவிஷன்ஸ் கொடுக்கும்போது there is a possibility of asking. இந்த சல்ஃபரில் இந்த மார்ஷல்ஸ் ஆசிட் was asked and also this was asked in NEET exam also. So இந்த இது ரொம்ப important. So when you go through, again I am saying, do something and please keep mug up all the structures, molecular formulas first. Once molecular formula is known, if you follow the tricks, simple tricks, like something is very common in all the structure, like here double bond O and OH is common. After that, if you know the valency for each element, easily you can fill in and you will get the structure. So don't worry about in mug upping the structures. You first remember the name and respective molecular formula for that. After that you can easily crack that. And Peroxo Disulfuric Acid or Marshall's acid is H2S2O8. So put 2 sulfur, each sulfur double bond OH, double bond OH, and everything sulfur and hydrogen is over. 8 ஆக்சிஜனில் 4 ஆக்சிஜன் முடிஞ்சிருச்சு, 2 ஆக்சிஜனை 2 சல்ஃபர் மேலே போட்டுருங்க. ரிமைனிங் இருக்க 2 ஆக்சிஜன் நம்ம எப்படி அங்கே பார்த்தோம், இன் பிட்வீன் த சல்ஃபர் ஒரு ஆக்சிஜன் நம்மளுக்கு லெஃப்ட் அவுட் ஆகிருந்தது. ஸோ வி புட் தட். ஸோ வி ஆர் லெஃப்ட் அவுட் வித் 2 ஆக்சிஜன்ஸ் ஹியர். ஸோ 2 ஆக்சிஜனையும் 2 சல்ஃபருக்கு நடுவில் போட்டுருங்க. ஸோ ஆல்வேஸ் செக் த வேலன்சி. ஹைட்ரஜனுக்கு ஒரு வேலன்சி, ஆக்சிஜனுக்கு வேலன்சி 2 இருக்குதான்னு செக் பண்ணாங்க. சல்ஃபருக்கு இட் ஷுட் ஹேவ் வேலன்சி 6. ஸோ யூ மேக் ஷூர் த வேலன்சி இஸ் சாட்டிஸ்ஃபைடு எவ்ரிவேர். Next is Dithionic Acid. So Dithionic Acid is H2S2O6. So this is again very simple. S and S2 sulfurs are there, and OH and double bond you will put for each sulfur. Then you will be left out with 2 oxygen. Put that on each sulfur. Then Polythyonic Acid is Poly means it goes on. So sulfur n plus 2 means it goes on. So H2SN plus 2O6. So O6 வரதுக்காக you put 2 sulfur and ரெண்டுத்துக்குமே OH double bond O and O6 க்கு இன்னொரு 4 satisfy ஆயிடுச்சு, remaining 2 will come here. This SN plus 2 should come in between this sulfur. So here, so this is again entirely different so that you can remember. So this is all about the structure of oxo acids of sulfur. So same way like phosphorus, this is also easy. When it comes to nitrogen only, we will see any other tricks are there, means we will see, but apart from that, if you remember the method whatever I taught, it is well and good, but you still have a practice in remembering the structures, molecular formula and their names. There only you will forget. Okay, next class we will start the group 17, that is halogen group. Okay, thank you.